Hello Internet, welcome back to Tromsø Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you, the Abyss, about books, movies, music I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. Here in Tromsø, last week, the morning looked like this, the evening looked like this, and the nighttime looked like this. While all of this beautiful light was lighting the sky in different ways throughout the 24-hour cycle of the Earth, people from all over the planet travelled to Tromsø, the island in the Arctic, Norway, to experience the Tromsø Film Festival, which is an annual festival of film comparable maybe with Sundance or with the Toronto Film Festival, except that it's a bit later in the cycle. So we often get films from the previous year. Most of these films have been at other festivals throughout 2025, but they may not have had a cinematic release yet, and many of them will not have a cinematic release in Norway. So this is like the only chance that any of us get to see these movies. I'm a psychologist, I work full time, but I still managed to see 16 films last week, and these are the films that I saw. I'm going to tell you what they were called, I'm going to tell you where they're from, and I'm going to give you a little summary, my opinion for each one. I'm also going to do these films in the order that I saw them. I'm not ranking them. Film number one, Boss. This is a movie from South Korea directed by Ra Hee-chan. A man wants to be a chef, he wants to be a restaurant owner, but his mafia past will not let him go. This is a parody gang and martial arts movie from South Korea. It's funny, it's likable, it's very violent, but in a very undisturbing, not particularly gory way, more like a kind of martial arts film violence with a comedy edge, a little slapstick. It has enjoyable characters. Ultimately, it's not an exceptional film, but it's very entertaining. It has some good dance scenes, some really great fight scenes, and it has some very funny moments. The next film I saw was The Currents. I actually wanted to see The Chronology of Water, but it sold out, so I went to see this film, The Currents, instead, that I knew nothing about. It's from Argentina. It's directed by Milagros Momenthaler, and it's in the Spanish language. A stylist is given an award in Switzerland. She leaves the ceremony and she falls or drops into a body of water from a kind of bridge. She climbs over the barrier and falls into the water. On her return to Argentina, we learn what happens after this event and we learn what came before. One of the things that the film deals with is that she has an aversion to water after the incident. This is a poetic, gentle, quiet, playful, but also psychologically serious portrait of a woman played by Isabel Amy Gonzalez Sola, who is fantastic in the central performance. It also has beautiful use of Venus the Bringer of Peace from the Planet Suite by Gustav Holst. The third film that I saw was called Fucktoys. This is released in 2025. It was directed by and starring Annapurna Sriram. On a floating raft in Louisiana, a beautiful sex worker is told by a drag queen who is psychic that she is cursed. She spends the following days trying to raise the money for a ritual to banish the curse, together with her friend, a trans man who is recently released from jail. Shot on film with throwback exploitation movie aesthetics, a kind of grindhouse vibe. This is super queer, dreamlike, playful, tender, strange, a little bit like John Waters if he was on Tumblr. It also reminded me slightly of a very obscure film called Highway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby, which is one of my kind of favourite films from when I was growing up. But it's a little more friendly, I guess, as a movie than that one. I love everything about this movie. Movie number 4 was The Testament of Anne Lee, directed by Mona Fastvold, who also was involved in or directed The Brutalist, which I have not seen. This is about the head of the Shaker movement, who were a more extreme offshoot of the Quakers. Anne Lee believed that she was the reincarnation of Jesus as a woman, and she was religiously celibate. The film is a kind of musical with both music and choreography based on the songs and movements of this original religious movement that started in the 1700s. The visuals are very compelling. The film is both brutal and beautiful at the same time. It presents a universe of religious fundamentalism that is close to madness, but in a way that is very unjudgmental. Also, Amanda Seyfried is amazing in this film. The next movie I saw, slightly more obscure, this one's from New Zealand. It's called Mārama. It was written and directed by Toa Stoppard, who gave an introduction to the film where he did a kind of Maori invocation to protect the cinema and the film itself. And he was very moved while he did so. It was very beautiful. And he has made a kind of post-colonial gothic Maori movie about an orphan from New Zealand who journeys to a family estate in Yorkshire in search of knowledge about her parents. Like the book Wide Sargasso Sea, it's a kind of post-colonial twist on the British Gothic tradition. It references, I guess, Jane Eyre in a sense, but from the perspective of the exoticized other. It's Gothic in the 19th century novel sense of the word more than in the contemporary sense of the word. It's a horror film where the horror is misogyny and colonialism more than the violence that you see in the film. It's stylish, it's clever, it's satirical, but it's not comic. It's how you should make a low budget horror, in my opinion. I don't know how they pulled off what they did visually with the money that they had. Highly recommended. I saw that film in a double bill with The Ugly Stepsister by Emilie Blichfeldt, the Norwegian director who is local to Tromsø. I've seen The Ugly Stepsister before. It was very much a film that benefited from a second viewing. I appreciated aspects of the film this time around that I maybe didn't pick up on as much the first time because I was kind of battered by some of the more shocking scenes the first time I saw it. Loved the film the first time, loved it the second time. I have a full review of it in the description of this video if you'd like to watch that. On the Thursday, I watched the German film Sound of Falling, which is directed by Masha Schilinski. It's a dreamlike, associative film about family, trauma, abuse across several generations of women in Eastern Germany. It has shades of Tarkovsky's Mirror in the style, but the film is much less compelling than Tarkovsky. It took me 40 minutes to warm to it, and the last half hour felt way too long. The next movie was The Last Paradise on Earth from 2025 by Sakaris Stora. This is a film from the Faroe Islands, a Danish-Faroe co-production. A young man who works in a fish factory holds out in a tiny village on the Faroe Islands as globalization and climate change erode his way of life. It's a warm, tender movie and evocation of a place with a background of loss and grief in connection with globalization and climate change. On Friday I saw two films. The first of those was No Other Choice, the 2025 film by Park Chan-wook from South Korea. An unemployed paper factory worker goes to extreme lengths to get back into the job market and to provide for his family. It's a blackly comic, slightly absurd satire from the director of Oldboy and Thirst, brutally scathing about human frailty and late capitalism, but with enough heart and humour that it doesn't slip into nihilism. I then saw Pillion, Harry Leighton's film from 2025. This is a British movie about an awkward young man who discovers himself as a service submissive to a biker dom played by Alexander Skarsgård. This is tender, playful, sometimes funny, but also emotionally painful. It has unintrusive direction that allows the two incredible central performances to really shine. It's probably the most charming film about kink since 2002's movie The Secretary. I started Saturday with Sirât from 2025. This is directed by Oliver Laxe and it is a French-Spanish co-production. A man drives with his young son to a rave in the Moroccan desert looking for his missing daughter. As World War III breaks out, the two of them join a gang of lifestyle ravers on a journey deep into the desert looking for a final party. I've heard this movie described as psychedelic and also compared to Gaspar Noé, so I expected it to be visually surreal and violently disorientating. It is neither of these things, but it is striking, artistic, memorable, and intensely existential. Highly recommended. See it in the theatre, see it in the cinema if you can. I think that you need to experience it in that context. Right after Sirât, I saw A Simple Accident, the 2025 film from Jafar Panahi, which won the Palme d'Or this year at Cannes, or last year. This is a movie from Iran, which also has some European co-production. In Iran, a man kidnaps someone he believes is a state agent and torturer, but he hesitates to kill him due to uncertainty about his identity. This is a farce set with the background of the dystopian situation of the Iranian regime. It's funny and moving, at times chilling. There's no music outside of a radio playing near the start of the film. It's worth seeing. It's very accomplished storytelling. Maybe I didn't love it as much as a lot of people do, but it's definitely worth checking out. Then in the evening, I saw a movie that was originally called Good Boy, but due to this clashing with the title of another film, they've changed the name to Heel. It's 2025, directed by Jan Kumasa, who is a Polish director. In the film, a couple kidnap a young thug in the UK with the hopes of rehabilitating him through unusual methods. This is almost a horror film, but kind of lands more as a black comedy. It has hilarious central performances from both Stephen Graham and Anson Boone as the thug, with great supporting cast. Despite being a Polish production, this film is extremely insightful about the United Kingdom. It has a lot of melancholy wisdom under its eccentric premise. Early Sunday morning, I watched Late Fame, also from 2025, directed by Kent Jones, an American movie set in New York. A post office worker named Ed comes home one day to find a young man waiting for him. This young man represents a group of young people who fancy themselves as artists and writers. He has read a book of poems that Ed published in the 70s, and he wants to convince Ed that he is a forgotten literary genius. Ed is played by Willem Dafoe. All through the film, he walks a line between possible humiliation and pride. He puts in a beautiful, warm, nuanced performance. This film also stars Grace Lee as a charming, charismatic, and willfully mysterious actress who has found an audience amongst this group of young men. It's a film about nostalgia, ambition, and the abiding dream that is the life of the arts, culture, literature that many of us at some stage have believed that we would participate in, and about how people kind of build this dream around themselves. It's like the guy turns up at Ed's house and invites him back into a dream that he's almost forgotten. This film really spoke to me. I loved it a great deal. Also on Sunday, I saw the closing movie of the festival, which is Mile End Kicks by Chanda Levac from Canada. Euphoria's Barbie Ferreira plays a young music journalist who travels from Toronto to Montreal, planning to write a book about Alanis Morissette's album Jagged Little Pill over the course of a summer. This is a kind of throwback coming-of-age film that might remind you of Tower Records or Reality Bites. Ferrera plays a flawed but likeable central character who is also attractive, finding her way into early adulthood. I found it consistently funny with a lot of heart. Now, the last film that I saw at the festival is called The Morrigan, 2025, Callum Eastwood, Northern Irish director. An archaeologist makes a bid to conduct a dig in Ireland. She believes that she may have found the site of a pagan queen, subject to thousands of years of subsequent misogynist, patriarchal mythologization as a vengeful pre-Christian god. It turns out that all this sexist mythology actually is true. She really is a vengeful demon who they unearth. And the movie tries to compensate for this fundamentally misogynistic premise by throwing in insultingly on the nose feminist posturing, presenting a story about gender discrimination and workplace harassment that is so unnuanced and unbelievable that only a man could have written it. This is a horror B-movie with good practical effects, bad CGI, terrible dialogue, patchy acting, and an extremely unsatisfying plot. Now, I watch a lot of horror movies, so I'm always excited to see horror movies when they come to the festival, and honestly, it kind of felt like an insult that they'd programmed this. That's my roundup of the movies that I saw at Tromsø International Film Festival this year. Did you see any of these films this year? Did you see any other films at this festival or any other recent film festivals? I know that it's, I think it's Sundance right now. So if you've seen anything you want to recommend, jump in the comments and please recommend them. I saw 16 films. I really liked 14 of them. And even of the 2 that I didn't like, I think Sound of Falling just wasn't for me. I think the only one that was actually bad was The Corrigan. So I guess that's it from me for now. Thanks very much for listening. Like my video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you'd like to hear more from me, and please do let me know any recommendations for movies that you would like me to watch. Take care, lots of love.